What's up, ladies and gentlemen? The Brew with Matt and Mike is back. Mike, welcome back. This is our show, so I'm not going to say welcome back. How are you doing today? And just give me your breakdown and your thoughts on the game yesterday against Southern Illinois University, Edwardsville.
Man, good to be back. Good to hang out again, have another conversation with you, Matt. Always looking forward to doing this with you. We have a good time doing it. In terms of the game, man, it was a great game actually. It was very entertaining, especially in the first half. SIU Edwardsville, they were feisty. My first couple of impressions when I saw them, I said, "Dang, they're quite a bit longer, especially at the wing position than the last three opponents that the Badgers have had." And so, and I also noticed, defensively. Their head coach over there, I don't remember his name, but he got them to the tournament for the first time last year, and that dude can coach. He's got his guys, on a string defensively. They understood their scouting reports. They were defensively, they were a solid team. They kind of knew what they needed to do, and they slowed the game down. And they did a nice job early of icing ball screens, which was great to see. A little bit of different defensive coverages for the Badgers gives them a little bit of different look, as well as I thought they did a great job of actually scouting the Badgers in terms of taking away Boyd's left hand. There was a couple of times early that they really locked in, and guys sat on that left hand and didn't let them get to it. To no avail, obviously. The first half was a struggle defensively. They were able to hit some really, really tough shots and keep the game close. But then just kind of a war of attrition that happens sometimes. You get to a team that, you can play with them for a half, but you could see the talent and the size kind of disparity start to take shape, especially in that start of the second half. I think Coach Gard did a great job of making some adjustments. And you could see guys more locked in individually on defense, able to push off some drives, shut off driving lanes, and stop those paint touches. So overall, it was a really good game. We can kind of get into some of the finer points, but what did you think about the game?
Well, when I look at the box score, the biggest thing that jumps out to me, 4 turnovers. And I remember watching the game. It was pretty far into the game. There was only 1 turnover, which is outstanding for a team that has only been together for so long. So that is a super positive sign. They shot 88% from the free throw line, 38% from three, which you love to see. Now on the season, my biggest concern is how good of a shooting team will this be? If they can be a solid 3-point shooting team, this team's going to be tough. But yeah, 36% on the season now from three. And they're third in the country right now from the free throw line at 84.1%. Only 4 games in, but this is some positive signs. And then, boy, that Boyd and Blackwell combination, if they shoot well, let's say Blackwell shoots, I think just his shot's looking good. He's looking confident. He's a guy to me that looks like he did everything right in the offseason, both mentally, physically, and diet, everything. I feels like he is a guy who did everything right because he looks just alpha dog, ready to rock and roll. So that combination of Boyd and Blackwell, if they shoot well, let's say Blackwell shoots close to the 40s or even just above 35, and Boyd shoots over 34. Woof! That's going to be a dangerous duo. So I'm getting excited. We've only seen mid majors. I think this is the best mid major Wisconsin has played.
For sure.
They had some pretty good length, athleticism, and age. I looked at on Stat Reference that a lot of their top guys were seniors, and their retention in today's day and age of college basketball is actually not terrible. Where they had some guys who were there for 2 years, which is better than a lot of schools. So and a lot of those guys were JUCOs who transferred to Edwardsville and have been there for 2 years now, and they made the tournament last year. So, yeah, I think that's a pretty solid mid-major that Wisconsin handled, and I honestly think that was just a fantastic performance from Wisconsin to beat them by that much, to take care of the ball like that, to shoot well. Few complaints coming from me.
Yeah, and we've talked about a lot at length here of just the ability to shoot the ball, and that their skill level of shooting the ball is kind of their ceiling for them. And it was great to see. Obviously, talking about John Blackwell physically, his jumper looks really smooth, and the biggest thing I take away from him is he is on balance so much. He on his 3-point shot specifically, he is finding balance and he's finding really great rhythm with that. You can see that release point and that release timing is super consistent. And that's hard to do, especially as a younger player when you don't have the thousands of reps you have. So it's great for him to see that. It's great for us to see that out of him. He's definitely doing that. And then Another big thing is there was a really nice play. Boyd hit a tough step back on the left wing, and he hasn't shot the ball so great from the left side of the floor this year. And he actually knocked both shots down and from 3-point range on the left side of the floor. He had a really tough step back. But the one I really liked and I thought was his best shot was came down and there was a pick and roll. I can't remember who set the pick, but they went underneath and pull up off of his right hand dribble, and he looked really smooth, really confident with it, in balance, in rhythm. And for him, I think that's really important. A couple times this game, like I said earlier, the SIUE did a really great job of scouting, taking away that left hand. He rejected a few screens. He got to his right hand. He showed that he has that ability. And him being able to pull out of ball screens, especially when teams go under, just makes it more lethal in his ability to get downhill. In terms of the big shooting right now, I had a couple of notes. Because SIUE was icing ball screens or basically trying to force the ball away from the screen. For those of you guys that don't know, icing, it's also referred to as being downing a ball screen. It's taking away the action and trying to force an action that isn't a ball screen, right? And the biggest thing with that I noticed is Winter and Rapp. They didn't do a great job with their footwork. I was a little bit disappointed in that. I think that's something that they can shore up film wise is on that pop. So what happens is usually they drag, if the ball handler drags two guys away, the big guy's got to pop. So it's got to be two shuffle steps and really have energy into your feet off of that to be on balance and everything like that. A couple of shots that Rapp had, especially off of that pick and pop, off of the ice action, they were okay. The two that Winter had, they were just a little bit flat. And the biggest thing with Winter's jumper is if he shoots the ball flat, it definitely ends up short. So he needs to kind of sit down a little bit more, just lower his hip height, maybe an inch or two, sit down a little bit more and get a little bit more arc on the basketball. And we should see those numbers creep up for him because he does have a good looking stroke. Same thing with Rapp. Those numbers will start to creep closer to 40 than they are to 30.
That's a great nuanced point and take, and that's why I think our show is so good because you bring that perspective to it, that high IQ, highly advanced basketball mind that you do have. But yeah, for me moving forward, and I'll have you follow up on this, but the biggest key for me for Wisconsin to reach their ceiling, obviously just shooting around the board, but we got to get the bigs shooting a little bit better, like you mentioned, Winter and Rapp. They got to start knocking it down because they're going to get looks. When you have Blackwell and Boyd and all the attention that they're going to attract throughout the season, just penetrating to the hoop, you're going to get open looks and you got to knock them down. Like Crowell last year did a great job of knocking down open looks where he had a super high percentage, or maybe it was the year before. Maybe that was 2 years ago. But I remember him having like a 45% three-point shooting year. I think that might have been 2 seasons ago. But
yeah, I think he shot about 35, 36%.
Yeah, I think it was the year before where he was just knocking down and it's amazing that the bigs in Wisconsin's program typically get a lot of open looks. It's just knocking down those open looks. So that's my biggest key. It's just if Rapp and Winter can start knocking it down at a higher rate, that just makes Boyd and Blackwell even more lethal, getting to the hoop and doing their thing. I like how Blauskis had an air ball yesterday that was pretty far off, but I like his shot. It's gonna happen, but. So overall, that's my biggest key for Wisconsin is shooting in general. But I think free throws are always a good indicator of how good of a shooting team you are, and as a player, it's a pretty good indicator. But if Rapp and Winter can start knocking it down, boy, this team has a high ceiling. So what do you think? What improvement do we need to see moving forward for Wisconsin? Now that they're done with the first 4 mid-majors, the competition is going to be leveling up. What do they need to improve on for them to reach their ceiling?
I mean, it's a little bit hard to say right now because they've played in games where they know they are the better team. They've consistently known they're the better team. They're bigger, they're longer, they're more athletic. So it's a little bit challenging. It's like, hey, they need to work on some cohesiveness and there was a couple of times of just locking in and tightening up for every possession and understanding that. When they play teams like they're about to play BYU, coming up on Friday, you got to really lock in each possession. And that's really what happens is when you start ramping up competition and you start looking at guys that are the same quality as you are. It's a lot about those minor details, that ability to stay focused, to stay locked in defensively, to do your best to push guys off their driving lanes, as well as stay focused on the scouting report. So those are the things that we're going to know what this team is more about here early. I think one thing is going forward. Coach Gard did a great job these 4 games of trying to figure out who his bench is. And I think it's pretty clear he's kind of figured out some of that going forward. He brought Janicki in, he brought Belauskas in really early, brought them in before the under 15 minute mark. So it's good to see that he's kind of Belauskas, I think, has really solidified himself as that first big off the bench. Janicki is definitely a guy that's going to come off the bench and give them a spark. As well as Braden Carrington. He had some good minutes last night. A couple things defensively. He was a little too jumpy in terms of ball fakes and everything, but him and Janicki are going to be really, really important, especially in these games coming up, because Andrew Rohde is going to be the primary defender on, I'm going to butcher his name, whoever the really high draft pick is from BYU. Couldn't even
I'm
tell
not
you.
going to try. AJ. His first name is, we can call him AJ. That's his first name.
We'll call him AJ. Yeah, AJ. I think it's Dabansky or something like that. But he's
pretty good.
He's very physically gifted. Rohde's going to have his hands filled with him, and it's going to be by committee with someone like that. And Carrington's going to have to carry some minutes. Janicki's going to have to carry some minutes with him. So those guys coming up, we'll see. We'll know more about this. I think overall, it's just been an experiment. It's been, hey, we're better than these teams. Let's get some chemistry. Let's build some stuff, and we'll see the fireworks here on Friday, and it'll tell you a lot. They said it. Coach Gard said it in his press conference. Guys have talked about it. Hey, the competition ramps up, and you're going to learn what kind of team this is really, really quickly in the next Friday, obviously, but then moving forward over the next couple of weeks.
Absolutely, and obviously it'll be a rematch against BYU, and the bigs. Everyone's going to be tested. This is going to be super exciting, but I'm excited to see how Winter, now that he's the guy, he's one of the big 3, how he matches up with the athleticism of BYU. This is his first real test. We talk about him having NBA potential. Well, let's see it against some NBA length and athleticism, almost to an extent, or like kind of
NBA bodies, right?
Yeah,
NBA bodies. That's what he's going to see. So.
Yeah, Keita. I might be butchering the name, but I remember Wisconsin almost got him out of the portal last year, and then played him in the NCAA tournament last year, and he had 3 blocks. I think he had like 5 boards, 10 points. I can look it up real quick here, but he had a good game.
He was a monster
10
inside.
points,
He was a
boards,
game changer for them.
3 blocks. And I think he was talking some trash, and so that it was kind of a heated game, obviously an emotional March Madness game. So I think that's going to be a fun test for Nolan Winter and company. So I'm excited to see what happens. I liked how Gard scheduled the beginning of the season, kind of let all these new pieces kind of learn to mesh with each other for 4 games, and it's like, all right, it's go time now. Time to learn. Trial by fire. So I think that's a good point to wrap up on today, Mike. Thank you for coming back on, and looking forward to talking again soon.
Yeah, look forward to it as always, Matt. Have a great rest of your day, and we'll see you guys later.